That was the worst Thanksgiving on record.
Nature's deadliest organisms.
No one wants to be this kind of holiday host.
They hijack our bodies.
Oh my God, is that inside me right now?
Disable our immune systems.
That Christmas, she had tons of wires and tubes hooked up to her.
And eat us from within.
We didn't know if Lillian was going to come back to us.
This holiday season.
I wasn't anticipating celebrating anything ever. It was tough.
Sandra and Neil Salerno live in Houston, Texas.
Neil, he's a pretty serious guy. He's a hard worker, whereas I'm more laid back.
Sandra is everything you dream about. Beautiful on the inside and on the outside.
Neil is an executive at an oil company. Sandra is a financial analyst. And they have a 2-year-old daughter named Vivian.
She has a great sense of humor, which I hoped she got from me, and she's a fun little girl.
My hopes for the family is just to be really close-knit and happy.
It's the Christmas holidays, and Sandra is 8 months pregnant with the couple's second child.
That Christmas, we had a lot of family in town. It was a really joyous day. That night around 3 a.m. I woke up and I felt a lot of water in the bed. I woke my husband up and I said, I think that my water broke.
I said, oh no, this is 4 weeks early, but not a big deal.
Neil rushes Sandra to the hospital, where doctors perform a C-section.
The C-section went very smoothly. About 30 minutes later, we had our daughter. She had beautiful blue eyes, and she had a blonde head of hair. We named her Lillian Grace Salerno. It was a really happy day.
After a few days, Sandra and Neil take Lillian home. 2 months later, Sandra takes Lillian in for a checkup.
The doctor saw that her weight was developing appropriately. She had a good height. But then the doctor measured her head circumference and said that Lillian's head size was measuring much smaller than it should be, even accounting for her prematurity. My pediatrician wasn't overly worried, so I didn't overreact to that news.
Sandra takes Lillian home. Over the next 4 months, Sandra and Neil keep a close eye on their daughter's development.
When Lillian was around 6 months of age, we were in the living room playing with toys. When I held the toy in front of her left hand, she did nothing to reach for it. However, when I held the same toy in front of her right side, she wanted to play and engage with it. That really struck me as odd. As a mother, my instinct was that something was wrong with my daughter.
But everything else was normal, so I didn't think anything of it.
Then one night, Sandra is getting Lillian ready for bed.
I had just finished giving her her evening bath. I noticed she started jerking her left arm, and she appeared to be staring blankly. I was wondering if maybe what I saw was a seizure.
Seizures occur as a result of abnormal electrical activity in the brain.
My fears are now heightened even more.
Sandra and Neil take Lillian to a neurologist who performs a brain scan.
She pulled up on the computer the MRI results. You instantly knew there was something wrong.
The left side of her brain was developed completely normal, but the right side of her brain was very small and malformed.
Malformations in the brain can be caused by a range of different factors, including a lack of oxygen to the fetus during pregnancy or chromosomal abnormalities. In Lillian's case, the cause is a mystery.
We were both in shock.
You didn't need to be a neurologist to see that that's not good.
Doctors put Lillian on anti-seizure medication and refer her to one of the region's top neurologists, Dr. Gail Harrison.
When I first met Lillian and her family, they were on a diagnostic odyssey to try and determine what was causing Lillian's condition.
Dr. Harrison tracks down some routine blood samples which had been taken at Lillian's birth and runs tests on them. A week later, the results of the blood tests come in.
I brought them in, and I told them that Lillian had cytomegalovirus.
I had never in my life heard of cytomegalovirus.
Cytomegalovirus is often called CMV. Inside Lillian's body, the cytomegalovirus is infecting the right side of her brain. There, the virus invades the brain cells. Inside each one, they turn the cell into a viral factory, multiplying so quickly they cause the cell to burst. As the viral infection spreads across her brain, it leads to her shrunken head size, neurological dysfunction on her left side, and seizures.
When you receive news like that, I mean, you're devastated. There was this 11 months where this virus was just free to just go crazy in her.
Usually, cytomegalovirus causes no symptoms, but in cases with young babies whose immune systems are still developing, cytomegalovirus can spread unchecked. This infection can lead to deafness, blindness, and other disabilities. In extreme cases, it's fatal.
It was potentially life-threatening.
That's when the shock kind of hits you.
All the dreams that we had for our daughter, could she achieve any of those things?
All doctors can do is keep Lillian on anti-seizure medication and put her on antivirals to prevent her symptoms from worsening. For several months, the Salernos wait for a sign that the medication is working. Then, just as the holidays are approaching, something happens that changes everything.
Christmas rolled around, and it also happened to be right around Lillian's first birthday. On Christmas Day, we were cleaning up from unwrapping all the gifts. I noticed that Lillian was kind of staring through me. I thought, she's having a seizure at that moment. She started jerking, and so I reached out my arm to see if I could maybe stop the motion, and I was unable to stop what she was doing. I felt very depressed. I felt like nothing would control these seizures.
Medicine's not working. What happens now?
Cytomegalovirus is infecting Lillian Salerno's brain and leading to life-threatening seizures. Neurologist Dr. Gail Harrison scrambles to save her life before it's too late.
Lillian was admitted for very careful observation. And we found that Lillian was having literally hundreds of seizures a day. Having so many seizures a day could potentially kill Lillian.
For me, there was no option of losing my daughter.
So Dr. Harrison makes a drastic recommendation.
I said we could get rid of the part of her brain that was not working for her. We could literally scoop it out. The surgery was being done to potentially save her life, but it's also possible the surgery could cost her life.
When you hear that, your jaw drops. How do you make that decision?
I knew that it would be risky, but it was the only hope that we had for her.
Doctors take Lillian into the OR and begin the delicate procedure.
We sat in a private waiting room area, and we did a lot of praying that day.
Now we wait.
For 6 hours, the surgeons cut into Lillian's brain and removed the entire right hemisphere.
And then the surgeon came in the room and he told us that everything went well. And so we all gave him a standing ovation. We were cheering for him. And then he said, "You can go back to the ICU and see her." She had tons of wires and tubes hooked up to her.
Our poor little girl.
Unsure if she'll ever recover, doctors keep Lillian in the ICU for 10 days. Then, Sandra spots a glimmer of hope.
My older daughter, Vivian, was in the hospital visiting. They had a little mat, and Vivian started showing Lillian how to crawl.
Get on your knees and get on your...
Lillian crawled across the floor of the hospital room.
Yay!
We all celebrated and we cheered for her. And I don't know how hygienic that is or anything, but I didn't care.
Go, keep going, Lillian. Okay, good, keep going.
They knew that by having a surgeon take out half their baby's brain, they knew that they'd done the right thing. I'm sorry.
Cytomegalovirus is generally transmitted through direct contact with body fluids, such as urine, saliva, blood, or even breast milk. However, if a pregnant woman contracts cytomegalovirus, it transfers to the child in utero through the placenta. Because their immune systems are only partially developed, unborn fetuses are at the highest risk of developing infections of the brain.
Early in my second trimester, I had an upper respiratory type of infection. I never thought the virus or the illness that I was fighting would have such detrimental consequences for my baby.
3 weeks later, doctors discharged Lillian. But without the right side of her brain, the cytomegalovirus has made a serious impact.
Lillian is left with a left side weakness.
I love you.
And the left half of each eye is completely black for her, and that's a permanent outcome of the surgery.
Cytomegalovirus is the most common congenital infection in the United States. Each year, more than 5,000 children suffer permanent disabilities caused by this virus. Because young children are more likely to shed cytomegalovirus in their saliva and urine, the CDC advises pregnant women to wash their hands after coming into contact with a child's body fluids.
I always celebrate Hanukkah, but I wasn't anticipating celebrating anything ever.
She could die.
I cannot lose her.
Jenny Taylor is a single woman living in Columbia, South Carolina.
My family is further away, so friends are very prominent in my life.
She is passionate about her work as a spokesperson for an energy company.
You're the face of the company. You really need to be on your top game at all times, and so it can get a little demanding.
And to get away from it all, she enjoys outdoor adventuring.
The things that are important to me are exploring, seeing something new, seeing something different.
Joining her on these travels is her best friend, Jen Ittenbach.
Jenny is the kind of person that you can call in the morning for a trip, and she says, sure, where are we going? What should I pack? I can't imagine my life without her.
Jen is my fun travel buddy. Even if we're going 2 miles down the road, we're gonna have an adventure.
Jenny's religion also keeps her centered.
I'm very proud of my Judaism. I'm very active and love the outdoors, and some parts of Judaism just appreciate trees, appreciate nature, appreciate life.
It's early spring, and Jenny is hard at work.
I'm very passionate about my job, and I work really hard, and it's a very stressful job sometimes. One day I was at my office just typing, and all of a sudden my heart started fluttering. I held my hand right here. I could have felt my heart beat out and then catch back up, almost like it was going to come out of my chest, and it took my breath away. And I thought, well, maybe I was thinking about something stressful, and I just had like a little anxiety. I wanted to push it out of my head and think, it's nothing, I'll be fine, because I really didn't want it to get in the way of my life.
For the next couple of months, Jenny tries to keep a lid on her anxiety by exercising.
One day I was running, and I started developing this discomfort right below my rib cage. It wasn't like a sharp pain, it wasn't a shooting pain. It's like something just doesn't feel right in my abdomen. Something's shuffling wrong. And I had to cup my stomach to make it feel better.
Jenny stops her run to go home and takes some ibuprofen. For 2 more months, Jenny manages her intermittent heart flutters and abdominal pain with over-the-counter medication. One day, as fall begins, Jenny is in her office.
I was at work, and as I went to shut the door, I felt like I was gonna pass out. I kind of started to panic a little bit. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna be in here by myself blacking out. And I realized I'm not able to see right now. The white spots come and it gets dark. I lay down and I was able to stop myself from blacking out.
But suddenly, another problem emerges.
At this point, I know I'm gonna throw up. I'm crawling just so I can make it to the trash can. And I just start throwing up. And it's like my insides are coming out.
Jenny struggles to get a coworker's help.
I took the phone off the hook and dialed her number on speakerphone and said, I'm sick, something's wrong, I don't know what's going on with me. And she came rushing in there, she's like, oh my God, are you okay? I was like, no, I'm not okay. And she'd never heard me say that.
Her coworkers call 911, and paramedics arrive on the scene.
They said, we're gonna have to take you, and we're gonna have to take you in the stretcher. I remember thinking, I am not getting taken out of my office in a stretcher. But I really was at a point where, for once, I wasn't in control.
After collapsing at work, public relations executive Jenny Taylor is rushed to the ER.
They did a bunch of tests, and the doctor said to me, when he was taking my heartbeat, he said, we can hear something a little funny.
Doctors run a full-body MRI. The scans reveal something unusual, not with her heart, but in her abdomen.
The doctor said to me, there's some kind of mass inside of your spleen.
The spleen is an organ that filters blood. Though it's not vital, it aids the body's immune system.
I was kind of baffled. There's a mass in my spleen? Like, what do you mean?
A mass can be a benign growth, a sign of infection, or cancer.
I said, oh, okay. And it kind of sunk in then. I realized for the first time that I could die.
For Jenny, there is one person she must call.
She called me pretty much as soon as she could, and I could just tell instantly that there was something wrong with her.
And I said, Jen, I think it might be cancer. And I just start bawling.
I had been with her through breakups and craziness at work, and I had never heard her cry before. I cannot lose her. Like, I cannot imagine my life without Jenny Taylor.
For the next few months, Jenny is in and out of numerous hospitals. And as the holidays approach, Jen takes Jenny to Dr. Stephen Minter.
I was working through the CAT scans that were done, and the shape of the mass in her spleen was unusual. This was a perfectly round mass in the spleen.
Because of this unusual characteristic, Dr. Minter rules out cancer.
It's scary, because no one knows what it is, meaning no one can solve it. I don't know when my next day will be my last day at this point.
Dr. Minter takes additional blood samples. in order to run very specialized tests. Meanwhile, Jenny goes home, and the next day she and Jen try to prepare for the holidays.
I always celebrate Hanukkah. I'll have a Hanukkah party or have people over for Hanukkah and teach them what it is. But I realized that I wasn't anticipating celebrating anything ever. It's been 6, 7 months, and I'm still not feeling right, and it's getting worse.
Jenny cancels the party and even asks Jen to leave.
The part is gonna get emotional. I mean, it's just heartbreaking. Watching her in a time that should be 100% celebratory, you know, just sort of starting to fade.
On the second day of Hanukkah, Jenny returns to the clinic.
When Jenny came in to receive the results of the blood tests, I told her that I had some unfortunate news for her. She had a parasitic worm inside of her body. Jenny had echinococcus.
And I said, oh my God, is that inside me right now?
Echinococcus granulosus is a parasitic tapeworm. Inside Jenny's body, the parasites cluster on her spleen, forming a large cyst. As the parasites multiply, the cyst grows, which causes the spleen to swell. The enlarged spleen causes her abdominal pain and leads to her nausea, vomiting, and blackouts.
I was like, this is gross. It's almost like a horror movie, something taking over your body.
Echinococcus can stay undetected in the body for up to 30 years. The parasitic cysts grow so slowly and gradually that the immune system doesn't pick up on their presence until the cysts become extremely large. But the danger comes when the cysts rupture. This causes the parasites to spread throughout the host's body. They can infect all the major organs, including the heart and the brain.
If this cyst ruptured, she could die.
The cyst could burst at any moment. The spleen could burst at any moment, both of which could be deadly.
The deadly Echinococcus parasites have infected Jenny Taylor's spleen.
She needed to have her entire spleen removed.
On the last day of Hanukkah, she braces herself for surgery.
I remember singing a prayer. The Shema is a prayer that's supposed to be the first prayer that you hear when you're born, and the last prayer that you say or hear when you die. It was good for me to have that inner peace with God.
In the OR, doctors proceed with caution.
The surgery would have to be done very delicately. If the surgeon were to have ruptured any of the cysts during the procedure, she could have died on the table.
But doctors managed to extract the organ without rupturing the cyst. And they returned Jenny to the ICU.
After surgery, Jen was there because I didn't get to celebrate Hanukkah. We got to celebrate the 8 days of Jenny. She did 8 little individual presents. They were all things to keep me through each day in the hospital.
I don't think I've ever been happier in my life.
The life cycle of Echinococcus tapeworms begins in the intestines of a dog. There, the tapeworms release eggs through the dog's feces. Humans become infected with Echinococcus cysts when they ingest food, water, or soil that contains contaminated dog's feces. This parasite is common in Africa, southern and eastern Europe, and the Middle East.
Jenny believes she contracted Echinococcus 3 years prior.
I'd been to Israel and did kind of an adventure trip there. And when I was hiking, we filled up canteens off the side of a mountain. I guess the eggs of the parasite could have possibly been in the unfiltered water.
A week later, Jenny leaves the hospital. Today, she has her health back, but her body is now more susceptible to infections.
living without a spleen, you have to take it easier a little bit more. But life is risky, and you're not gonna live life without risks. It's more fun that way.
Echinococcus is very rare in the United States, but has been reported in the American Southwest. In endemic regions, the best way to prevent infection with Echinococcus parasites is by avoiding food or water that may have been contaminated with dog excrement.
This Christmas was a horrible Christmas.
I was speechless.
It has helped us get on through every period.
It's fall, and Dawn is at work.
I started a new kindergarten class that year. We were teaching them the alphabet, all the wonderful little things you do in kindergarten. All of a sudden, I felt like there was scum, a gritty scum on my teeth. I was confused. I had no idea what was on my teeth. I immediately drank water, but it never went away.
For the next month, Dawn carries on with work.
One day, I brought the children outside for recess, and the sun really hurt my eyes. I didn't really think much of it, but I couldn't stay outside with the sun. I put my head down, shut my eyes, and basically the other teacher had to take over for me.
She leaves the schoolyard and takes ibuprofen. But Dawn's strange symptoms linger. And a month later, her family comes over for Thanksgiving dinner.
That Thanksgiving was really special. I prepared turkey and cranberries and all those traditional foods.
Dawn always loves to entertain, so she worked very, very hard to make the best for the relatives.
But my head hurt and I wasn't used to getting headaches. I could barely keep my eyes open at dinner. My headache was starting to overtake everything.
She was rubbing her head a lot.
I said, I have to go to bed. I have a really bad headache. I'm so sorry. Everyone enjoy yourself.
Dawn is not a complainer, so I was very concerned.
After the visitors leave, Manuel goes to bed.
It was around 12 o'clock at night. Suddenly, the bed started shaking really bad. So I turned the lights on. I saw Dawn foaming from the mouth, and her whole body was shaking really bad. And she was biting her tongue. I was really scared. So I called 911.
Paramedics rush to their house.
The paramedic told me that Dawn was having a seizure.
A seizure is the result of abnormal electrical activity in the brain and can manifest itself in the form of behavioral changes, hallucinations, and convulsions.
I thought she was gonna die.
On the night of Thanksgiving, school teacher Dawn Becerra suffers a massive seizure. Paramedics stabilize Dawn and rush her to the hospital. A few hours later, she comes to.
I didn't know where I was, and I didn't know what had happened. I was in this room in the hospital, and here's Manuel holding my hands and bent over me, staring in my face. That was the worst Thanksgiving on record.
She told me that she loved me. Excuse me. She said thank you for being there for. She said thank you for being there for me. That's what she said.
Doctors keep Dawn in the hospital overnight and run numerous tests.
The doctor didn't know why I had had seizures. I didn't have a diagnosis other than seizure disorder. So diagnosis seizure disorder means you're gonna have another seizure. They gave me anti-seizure medication and released me from the hospital. I couldn't just walk outside alone because I could fall anywhere.
Dawn's life had changed. I have to be there for her.
I was no longer a free agent.
For a month, Dawn remains on anti-seizure medication. Then, another holiday rolls around.
This Christmas was a horrible Christmas. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't celebrate. And we pretty much isolated ourselves because a seizure could happen at any time to me.
Christmas is very important in my culture, and we couldn't go to my relative's house, so it was very sad.
So Dawn and Manuel stay at home.
We were watching a movie that had flashing lights.
Dawn kept saying, no, 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 and started like shaking her fingers.
My last memory was a movie and then nothingness.
The seizure that she had was very, very long and violent. I was really scared because she was taking medicine, and now she got another one.
Manuel calls 911, and paramedics rush Dawn back to the hospital. There, neurosurgeon Dr. Richard Zimmerman takes over her case.
Dawn had a serious medical condition that does need attention. Any seizure can be harmful. If they lose consciousness, they can clearly be in harm's way.
Doctors run an MRI on Dawn's brain.
We saw a mass in a part of the brain known to cause seizures.
I was afraid I would die. I thought that was just what was going to happen.
Doctors probe Dawn to help identify the mysterious mass.
She had a comprehensive workup for patients who have seizures. That includes lifestyle, travel history.
I told the doctor that I'd been in Mexico, that I lived in Mexico.
Having lived in Mexico was a clue that we knew what to look for.
This helps lead doctors to a stunning diagnosis.
The doctor said, "You have a worm in your brain."
She had a parasite. She had neurocysticercosis.
I completely lost my mind when he told me that.
Neurocysticercosis is caused by the tapeworm Taenia solium. A tapeworm larva migrates through Dawn's body and eventually reaches her brain. There, the parasite turns into a hardened cyst. Over time, the infection causes severe inflammation of the brain, leading to her light sensitivity, headaches, and life-threatening seizures.
I was completely freaked out.
I was speechless.
Taenia solium have a brilliant defense mechanism. The encysted larvae secrete a chemical that helps them fly under the radar of the immune system. But after several years, the cysts die, and then they stop secreting that chemical. The immune system, in turn, recognizes the foreign bodies and launches a massive attack on the cysts, causing that area of the brain to become inflamed.
The MRI reveals that the cyst is located in Dawn's frontal lobe.
The frontal lobe has a lot of functions, including executive function like thinking and calculating things, movement or language. That function could stop.
I was devastated when I heard that. I have not cried about this ever. I'm crying now. That's amazing.
School teacher Dawn Becerra has a tapeworm cyst in her brain. To prevent massive damage to Dawn's cognitive functions, she must have brain surgery. And she must have it while she's awake.
We did the surgery with her being awake while I was operating on her brain and having her speak to me so that we don't impact her speech negatively.
They put a vice on my head that went through my skull because you can't move.
Doing great, Don. So while you're operating on the brain and you start going into an area that is important, you will notice a change in the patient's ability to speak or move.
The surgeon was in my brain, working on me, and so we just had an ongoing discussion.
She sounds wonderful down there.
For 6 hours, doctors delicately navigate through Dawn's frontal lobe.
When we finally came to the cyst in Dawn's brain, we found it to be the size of a pea, a green pea.
Dr. Zimmerman removes the cyst.
I called her Tanya, Tanya Solium. That's where she got her name. That was out of my head.
Doctors reattach her skull and wheel Dawn into recovery.
Waking up and seeing Manuel. Oh, okay. I was so happy to see him and seeing how much he loved me.
The Taenia solium parasite cycles between humans and pigs. Because of this, it's more popularly known as the pork tapeworm. When pigs consume contaminated human feces, the parasites migrate across the pig's body and form cysts. The parasite's life cycle continues when a human eats an infected pig that's raw or undercooked. But when humans consume contaminated feces, the eggs hatch into larvae that slip through the intestinal wall and form cysts inside the human's body. Pork tapeworm is found throughout much of the world, but is predominant in unsanitary conditions, particularly in much of Africa, Asia, and Latin America.
Dawn believes she contracted the parasite 3 years earlier at a restaurant in Mexico.
I said, I'm gonna have tacos. Manuel said, don't eat that.
It just looked strange. So I told her, let's not eat here.
But I did. I believe it was the tacos. It could have been someone that had dirty hands that had the parasite on them. That one mistake was a lifetime's worth of pain and misery.
3 days later, doctors discharge Dawn. It's the best Christmas present Manuel could have wished for.
I saw the difference like immediately. She was a different person.
The seizures completely stopped. I have a few memory problems, and I did stop teaching. I can't remember dates and some of those things, but basically I'm fine. I'm a free agent again. I'm independent. Life is very, very short, and I realize that. And I'm really fortunate for that.
Pork tapeworm infections are relatively rare in the U.S. The parasite's most common in developing countries where sanitary conditions are lacking. Worldwide, the parasite affects approximately 50 million people. The CDC recommends that travelers to endemic regions make sure that all foods they consume be prepared in sanitary conditions and that pork always be fully cooked.
Have you ever paused to think about what it truly means to age with grace and purpose? What happens when you find yourself grappling with loneliness, loss, and the inevitable passage of time? This video isn't just about getting older. It's about the powerful journey of embracing the later years of life and living them to their fullest. You'll meet Jack Thompson, a 62-year-old man who has faced both the joys and heartaches that come with aging, from the loss of his beloved wife to the growing sense of isolation as his children build their own lives. Jack's story is a deeply personal one, yet it resonates with so many of us as we face similar challenges and triumphs as we grow older. Why should you stick around and watch this video to the end? Because Jack's experience is not just his own, It's a reflection of the universal experiences that many of us will inevitably face as we age. Through his journey, you'll learn how to cope with loss, find new connections, and build a fulfilling life even in solitude. You'll discover the invaluable wisdom he gained from his relationship with Laura, a woman who entered his life in unexpected ways and helped him navigate the complexities of aging with strength and resilience. Additionally, Jack's story sheds light on the tough decisions seniors often have to make, like the difficult choice of moving to a nursing home, and how to approach these decisions with peace, confidence, and an open heart. By the end of this video, you'll walk away with a deeper understanding of how to cherish the relationships that matter most, embrace independence, and take full control of your life as you grow older. Whether you're in your 60s, 70s, or beyond, Jack's story will inspire you to make the most of your later years, no matter the obstacles life may present. Don't miss out on the chance to gain valuable insights from someone who has lived through it all and emerged even stronger. If you haven't already, I recommend subscribing and hitting the notification bell so you won't miss any of my videos. Your support means the world to me, and if you enjoyed this video, you can help me continue spreading these important lessons by liking and sharing them with others. If you connect with the theme of this video, please leave a 1 in the comments. If not, feel free to comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's dive into the story. I had always imagined retiring at a time when I could finally relax and enjoy the fruits of my labor. I had planned for it meticulously, knowing that the future would eventually come. But, as life often does, it threw me an unexpected curveball. I had to retire earlier than I'd anticipated. Thankfully, I had always been mindful of my spending, keeping a tight grip on my finances and saving for a rainy day. So, financially, I was managing okay. But there was something I hadn't planned for, the heavy silence that now filled my life. There was a time when my family was my world. My son, Adam, and my daughter, Emily, both had their own families now, their lives were stable, and they were flourishing in their ways. I was proud of them, of course, but a part of me longed for the days when the house was full of laughter and the pitter-patter of little feet. Over time, though, the house grew quieter. The energy that once filled it slowly dissipated. A few years ago, Sarah, my beloved wife, passed away after a long illness. That loss left a hole in my heart that never seemed to heal. As time passed, my children, who were once so close, became more absorbed in their own busy lives. They visited less and less, and with each passing day, I found myself alone more often than not. One afternoon, I sat on the sofa, surrounded by the stillness of my empty house. The silence seemed to swallow me whole. I could hear nothing but the beating of my own heart and the distant hum of the world outside. The rooms, once filled with life and warmth, now seemed to echo the loneliness I felt. I felt it deep within my bones, a pang of bitterness I couldn't ignore. As I sat there, trying to push those feelings aside, the phone rang. It was Adam. His voice came through, urgent and hurried. "Dad, are you staying home tonight? There's some urgent work, and I might not be able to come by," he said, his tone laced with worry. I felt a flicker of disappointment in my chest, but I tried to suppress it. I understood. Adam had a family of his own, a busy job, and a life to lead. He had responsibilities. I didn't want to burden him with my loneliness, so I replied with a forced calmness, "It's fine, Adam. Don't worry about me. Just take care of your things. I'm all right here." I hung up, feeling a hollow ache inside me. It was as if the world had slipped away, leaving me behind. I had worked so hard all those years, put my heart and soul into providing for my family, only to find that now, in my retirement, with Sarah gone, and the children living their own lives, I was left to face the quiet alone. The emptiness seemed to deepen with each passing day. The following day, my neighbor, John, stopped by for a visit. John and I were around the same age, and we had always enjoyed our conversations. But this time, There was an unspoken heaviness in the air. He sat down beside me, and after a few moments of silence, he sighed deeply. "So, it's just you here now, huh?" he asked, looking around the room, his eyes scanning the emptiness that mirrored my feelings. I nodded without saying much. His words hung in the air like a weight. "Same for me," he continued, his voice tinged with a sadness that struck me to my core. "My wife is busy, and the kids are doing their own thing." I could feel the sorrow in his words, and it mirrored the aching emptiness I was experiencing. John's words about loneliness at this stage of life felt like a cold, hard truth that I couldn't escape. "You have to think about it. What if one day you're all alone?" he asked, his question cutting through the stillness like a knife. I could feel my heart drop into my stomach. The thought of being completely alone in this big house, with no one to talk to, no one to check in on me, filled me with dread. His question gnawed at me, repeated over and over in my mind. What if I'm left alone? What will I do? I tried to shake it off, but it was there, haunting me. A few days later, Emily came by with her son, Noah. She brought some of his favorite childhood dishes, perhaps hoping it would lead to a longer visit. But as soon as Emily stepped through the door, she rushed to explain, "Dad, I'm just dropping by to let Noah see you for a bit, but then I have to go pick up Tom." Her hurried tone, her eyes darting back and forth, and the worried look on Noah's face broke my heart. I tried to smile, to hide the ache in my chest, but it was impossible. "Go ahead, take care of what you need to do." "I'm fine here," I said, though the words felt empty as soon as they left my lips. Emily barely had time to sit down before she was up again, rushing out the door with Noah in tow. I stood at the door, watching them leave, the sound of their footsteps slowly fading away. The house felt even emptier now, the silence more oppressive. I couldn't stop the tears that welled up in my eyes, nor the feeling of abandonment that settled heavily in my heart. That night, as I lay in bed, the question from earlier echoed in my mind with painful clarity. What should I do if I'm left alone? I couldn't continue like this. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't keep drifting through this quiet, lonely existence. A few days later, I met up with John at the park for a walk. We sat on a bench, watching people go by, their lives moving in a blur around us. I turned to John, my heart heavy with all that had been weighing on me. "You were right about everything," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said. At our age, if we're left alone, how do we manage?" John nodded in understanding, his eyes soft with empathy. "I've thought about it too," he replied. "There are a few things we need to prepare for in advance. We can't wait until the last moment to worry," John said firmly, his voice steady, almost reassuring. "The most important thing is to make sure we're financially stable. We need enough to cover food and essentials so we're not left struggling." I nodded in agreement. The truth was undeniable. Without financial security, aging could become a brutal battle. I had always prided myself on being careful with my money, but I knew now that I needed to think about what the future would hold. Medical expenses, emergencies, and the unknowns that always seem to arise at the most inconvenient times. John continued, "With no spouse or kids nearby, it's up to us to take care of ourselves." Those words rang true. It was a hard truth, but it was the reality we both faced. I felt a surge of determination rises within me. Maybe the future didn't have to be so bleak. Maybe there was still time to prepare, to take control, to build a plan that would allow me to live out my later years with dignity and purpose. But it was clear that I had to act now before the silence became more than I could bear. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Living alone, you come to realize that, despite all the love and care from your children, they can't always be there for you when you need them most. It's a hard truth, one that hits you like a cold gust of wind on an otherwise warm day. "We have to become more independent," he said, and those words echoed deeply within me. We have to take care of ourselves, stay active, and never isolate ourselves. It was as if he was speaking directly to me. For so long, I had devoted my life to my children, caring for them, putting their needs before my own, but in doing so, I had neglected the quality of my own life. The years had passed, and all I had to show for it was a life spent in front of the television, sitting in a room that felt more like a prison than a home. I was living but not truly living, and the isolation was slowly taking its toll on me. The realization struck me like a slap in the face. I couldn't keep living this way. My health, my happiness, everything depended on me changing. It was so easy to sink into the comfort of routine and let time slip away unnoticed, but I knew deep down that this path would only lead to one thing: a slow decline into poor health and loneliness. I couldn't let that happen. So, I chose to change my habits, no matter how daunting it seemed at first. Each morning, I started walking to the park, just a short walk, but it was something. It was a step toward regaining control of my life. And then, in the evenings, I found solace in the community center, playing chess and chatting with other seniors. At first, it was awkward, and I felt the weight of loneliness trying to pull me back into my shell. But little by little, I built new friendships, and I could feel my life becoming richer and more fulfilling. Still, despite all the new activities, there was a gnawing emptiness that refused to go away. Every night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the same question haunted me. Who will be there for me when I'm sick? When I need someone to talk to or help me through the hard times? The silence in the room seemed to amplify those fears, and the more I thought about it, the more unsettled I became. I had always been content to live alone, but now I couldn't shake the thought that maybe I needed someone by my side, not to take care of me, but simply to be there. To share in the quiet moments and the burdens of getting older. But then, a wave of guilt would rush over me. My wife, Sarah, had only passed recently. I felt like any step toward finding companionship again would be a betrayal of her memory. How could I ever let go of her presence, her love? Yet, as much as I tried to ignore it, the loneliness within me grew stronger with each passing day. One day, after much hesitation, I found the courage to talk to my old friend John. He listened with a knowing look in his eyes, his silence speaking volumes. "I get it," he said softly, his voice filled with compassion. "After my wife passed, I felt the same way. We don't need someone to depend on, but someone to talk to, someone to share the highs and lows of life with, someone to support us when we need it most." His words gave me a kind of comfort that I hadn't realized I was missing. He was right. I wasn't looking for someone to replace Sarah, but simply to ease the ache of solitude that had been growing inside me. Slowly, I began to open my heart to the idea of finding a companion. And that's when I met Margaret. She was an elderly woman who also lived alone, and her vibrant, optimistic personality was a breath of fresh air. We quickly bonded over our shared experiences of living far from our children, and the deep loneliness that came with it. Margaret had a spirit of adventure, a zest for life that I hadn't felt in years. She was always out exploring, visiting new places, and doing things that reminded me how much I had been missing out on. Her presence brought joy back into my life, and our conversations, filled with laughter and understanding, became something I looked forward to every day. As time went on, our relationship deepened. We began to do more together: grocery shopping, cooking meals, taking walks in the park, and just enjoying each other's company. We never really labeled our connection, but it didn't need labeling. The bond we shared was enough. Margaret became my companion in every sense of the word, and our home, which had once felt so empty, was now filled with warmth, conversation, and the gentle rhythm of two lives intertwined. One night, when I fell ill with a fever, I was reminded just how much having someone by your side can mean. Margaret was by my side instantly, her concern for me shining through in every gesture. She rushed to get me medicine and cool me down with a damp cloth, her hands gentle yet firm in their care. She called Adam, urging him to take me to the hospital. When Adam arrived and saw Margaret so diligently caring for me, he was surprised. His worry for me was evident, but I reassured him, smiling faintly, "I didn't want to worry you. You've got your own life, and Margaret takes excellent care of me." Adam seemed torn, but his gratitude was clear. He insisted on taking me to the doctor, and though it was just a fever, the simple act of being cared for made all the difference. That night, as I lay in bed, I watched Margaret take care of everything. The house was no longer just a place where I existed. It had become a home, filled with love, tenderness, and companionship. The emptiness that once defined my life had been replaced by something far more meaningful. I realized that the companionship we shared wasn't about replacing what I had lost, but about finding a new kind of love, one that was quiet, steady, and comforting. It wasn't the passionate love of youth, but it was a love that brought peace, security, and warmth in the twilight of life. Margaret was no longer just a companion. She was the light that had pierced through my darkness, reminding me that even in old age, we don't have to be alone. As time passed, the complexities of life began to unfold in unexpected ways. One day, as I was quietly going about my daily routine, Margaret received a phone call that would change everything. Her son, her beloved child, was getting married, and he wanted her to come back and live with him and his new family. When Margaret shared the news with me, a surge of bitterness flooded my heart, but I fought to keep my emotions in check. I smiled weakly, trying to mask the sadness that was slowly consuming me. "Your son is getting married. That's wonderful news," I said, trying to sound supportive. "It's a good time for you to be with your children." But as Margaret looked at me, her eyes filled with uncertainty, I could see the internal battle waging within her. Her voice, barely above a whisper, betrayed her emotions. "But I've gotten used to being here with you," she said, the weight of her words hanging in the air like an unspoken plea. I knew at that moment that her heart was breaking, torn between the pull of family and the bond we had shared. The quiet intimacy of our life together had become a comfort to both of us, and the thought of being uprooted stirred a deep ache within me. Taking a deep breath, I tried to steady my thoughts, knowing I needed to be the one to make this easier for her. "You need to be with your son. As a mother, that's where you belong. I'll be fine here on my own. Don't worry about me," I said, though my voice trembled slightly as I spoke. Inside, though, the weight of those words felt like a heavy stone lodged in my chest. I wanted her to stay. I wanted to hold on to the warmth and the comfort of our shared time, but I knew deep down that this was what she needed. After days of quiet contemplation, Margaret decided to return to her son. I drove her to the bus stop, my heart a mixture of love, sadness, and resignation. Watching her board the bus, I felt as though a piece of my heart was being left behind. As the bus pulled away, I stood there frozen, feeling as though the world had suddenly gone silent, leaving me in a hollow emptiness. Returning to an empty house, the silence was deafening. It was a loneliness I hadn't anticipated, a feeling more profound than I could have ever imagined. I found myself grappling with the reality of what many elderly people must face: solitude. The thought of being alone in my later years began to seep into my mind, and tears welled up as I muttered to myself, struggling to make sense of the void that had overtaken me. Margaret's departure had left a hole that nothing seemed to fill. Each morning, I continued with my routine, exercising, meeting with old friends, but the absence of her companionship was palpable. My children, Adam and Emily, still checked in on me, but their lives were full, and I didn't want to burden them with the weight of my loneliness. They had their own families and their responsibilities, and though they made the effort, I could sense the distance between us. Every time they called, I reassured them, saying I was fine, but deep down, I felt the painful truth. The loneliness was growing, sinking deeper into my soul. It was one afternoon at the community center, surrounded by familiar faces but feeling more isolated than ever, that I overheard a conversation that would change the course of my future. A group of people was discussing the possibility of moving into a nursing home. It struck me like a bolt of lightning. Maybe this was the answer. Maybe this was the place where I could find peace and some semblance of connection. The next day, I called Adam, hoping he would understand. There was a long pause on the other end of the line before he spoke, his voice full of concern. "Dad, are you sure you want to move into a nursing home? Doesn't that place feel cold?" His words made me pause, but I knew what I had to say. "Adam, it's not about the coldness. It's about finding a place where I can truly be at peace for the long term. You and Emily have your own busy lives. I don't want to be a burden to you. At least in a nursing home, there are people around. I won't be so alone." Adam hesitated, and I could hear the worry in his voice as he promised to discuss it with Emily. A few days later, they came over, sitting on the couch, their faces drawn with concern. Emily spoke first, her voice thick with emotion. "Dad, we understand that it's hard for you to be on your own, but are you sure a nursing home is the right place? What if you feel even more isolated there?" Their concern warmed my heart, but I knew I had to stand firm. "You don't need to worry about me. I've thought this through. I need a place where I can enjoy my later years in peace. A nursing home isn't the worst option. It's not perfect, but it's better than being alone here. You both have your own lives to live, and I don't want to impose on that." Their silence spoke volumes, but after a long pause, they agreed. "Dad, if this is what you want, we'll respect your choice, but we'll visit you often," Adam promised. And I felt a wave of relief wash over me. I wasn't completely alone in this decision. A few months later, I moved into a nursing home in the suburbs. It was a beautiful place, with flower gardens, activity rooms, and plenty of other seniors around my age. On my first day, I took a walk around the yard and met Mr. Robinson, a long-term resident. He welcomed me with a warm smile and offered to show me around. He introduced me to a few new faces, making the transition a little easier. That evening, as I lay in my new bed, gazing out the window at the night sky, I felt a strange sense of calm. It wasn't home, and it wasn't the life I had envisioned, but it was a new beginning. I had made a few new friends, and the prospect of companionship, however small, eased the weight of my loneliness. 6 months passed, and I found my routine. I ate regularly, exercised, and spent time socializing with my new friends. I no longer faced the crushing solitude I had once feared. I had found a new rhythm, a new sense of purpose. Though it was not the life I had imagined, it was one I could live with, peaceful, connected, and, for the first time in a long while, filled with hope. Life had become a peaceful rhythm, filled with the simplicity of small pleasures. Playing chess, enjoying the quiet moments, and chatting with friends, those small daily routines had become my sanctuary. For the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of comfort and security that had been absent for years. Adam and Emily, my children, still called frequently, their voices filled with concern about my adjustment to living alone. They seemed to worry endlessly, even though I assured them every time, "I'm doing well, nothing's missing. You don't need to worry about me." I tried to ease their minds, but deep down, I knew they couldn't fully understand the peace I had found in solitude. I had learned to embrace it, to appreciate it, to feel grounded in it. But then, one afternoon, the world as I knew it shifted. After a quiet lunch, I sat in the sun, feeling the warmth on my face, letting the simplicity of the moment wash over me. The phone rang, and as I answered, I heard Adam's voice crackling through, filled with urgency. There was a tremor in his tone that made my chest tighten. "Dad, I've got some bad news," he said, his voice barely controlled. "Mrs. Robinson was in a car accident, and she's in the hospital." If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment "tube" below to let me know that you are still here with me. The words hit me like a physical blow. My heart skipped a beat, and for a moment, I couldn't breathe. The phone nearly slipped from my hand as shock paralyzed me. I had to steady myself, sitting on the edge of the chair, struggling to process the gravity of what he was saying. What happened? How is she? I stammered, my voice barely a whisper, the panic beginning to take root. Adam's voice faltered as he spoke again. I just got the news and rushed over. Do you want to come to the hospital? I felt as though the ground beneath me had disappeared. The news of Mrs. Robinson, someone who had been a constant in my life, someone I had come to care for deeply, was almost too much to bear. At that moment, I couldn't think, couldn't reason. I hung up, calling the nursing home staff to arrange for transportation, my mind racing with thoughts I couldn't control. How could something so tragic happen to her now? The last time I saw her, I had smiled and told her to take care of herself, and now this. The image of her smiling face haunted me, and all I could think of was how fragile life truly was. When I arrived at the hospital, I saw Adam and Emily standing outside the emergency room. The look on their faces, so filled with worry, so deeply concerned, suddenly made everything feel too real. Adam helped me sit down, his hands shaking slightly as he guided me to the chair. "Dad," he said, his voice heavy with dread, "the doctors are doing everything they can, but the situation isn't looking good." The weight of his words crushed me. I could barely look at him, my heart pounding in my chest as I stared at the red light blinking above the surgical room door. All I could do was pray, hope against hope that Mrs. Robinson, the strong, resilient woman who had touched so many lives, would find a way to survive. The minutes dragged on, each one feeling like an eternity. Time seemed to slow, the air thick with worry and fear. Then, the door opened, and the doctor emerged. I almost lunged toward him, desperate for news, for some glimmer of hope. "How is she?" I asked, my voice a mere breath, my heart in my throat. The doctor's face was grim, his eyes exhausted. He shook his head, and I felt a cold seep into my bones. "The injuries are severe," he said softly. "Prepare for the worst." Those words were like a punch to the gut, leaving me breathless and numb. I could barely hold myself upright as Adam gently guided me back into the chair. I could feel the world spinning, everything around me blurring into a fog. And then, moments later, a nurse emerged, pushing Mrs. Robinson's still form down the hall. My heart lurched in my chest as I saw her, pale, unmoving, a shadow of the vibrant woman I had known. She had been full of life, full of spirit, and now she looked so fragile, so helpless. The sight of her like that shattered something deep inside me. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. I reached out instinctively, taking her cold hand in mine, feeling the stark contrast between her warmth and the ice-cold grip of her skin. "Please, Mrs. Robinson," I whispered, my voice breaking, my eyes filled with tears. "Please don't leave me. You promised, we promised, we'd spend our lives together. You can't leave me now." I thought for a moment that she might hear me, that she might respond. Her eyes fluttered open, and for a brief second, I dared to hope. But no words came. A single tear escaped her eye, and it felt like a dagger to my heart. In that instant, my world crumbled. I knelt beside her, my hands trembling as I clutched her hand, tears falling uncontrollably. "Please," I cried, my voice thick with sorrow, "please don't go. I can't live without you. If you leave me, I don't know what I'll do." Adam and Emily stood silently by, their faces etched with sadness, their eyes filled with the same helplessness that overwhelmed me. They knew there was nothing they could say, nothing they could do to ease the pain I felt at that moment. That night, the doctor confirmed the worst. Mrs. Robinson's condition had worsened. She was now critical. I couldn't leave her side, not for a second. I stayed there, hoping, praying, silently willing her to find the strength to hold on. At one point, her eyes flickered open again, and her hand, so cold, reached for mine. I held it tightly, not wanting to let go. It was all I could do, all I had left to give. Her grip on my hand tightened, just a little more than before, and she struggled, her breath shallow and labored. I could see the fight in her face, the last ounce of strength trying to reach out. "Mr. Thompson, live well," she whispered, her voice barely a breath, so fragile, so quiet. And then, with one final soft exhale, her hand relaxed, and her tired eyes fluttered closed for the last time. A part of me wanted to scream, to beg her to wake up, to stay with me just a moment longer. But she was gone. In that painful, inevitable silence, I was frozen, utterly paralyzed by the crushing weight of the moment. My heart felt as though it had shattered into 1,000 jagged pieces, and I couldn't breathe. "Mrs. Robinson, don't go," I whispered, my voice thick with sorrow, full of desperation. "Please, don't leave me." But there was no answer. The absence of her presence filled the room, colder than any winter's night. I can't find the words to describe the emptiness that overwhelmed me then. It was as though my soul had been ripped from my body, leaving behind nothing but a hollow shell. Mrs. Robinson was more than just a friend. She was the last person who truly cared about me, who saw me for all that I was, and who loved me regardless. And now she was gone. The world seemed crueler, colder somehow, and I was left to stumble through the days that followed in a haze, a darkness that clung to me, smothering any chance of joy or peace. The grief was suffocating, and no matter how many people tried to comfort me, it only seemed to make the loneliness worse. In the nursing home, the days blurred together. Everything seemed so empty without her, like there was no purpose to the hours that stretched endlessly before me. My friends, and my fellow residents, noticed the change in me. I didn't need them to say anything. I could see it in their eyes, the pity, the sadness they didn't know how to express. They sat with me, but no words of comfort could heal the wound that had been carved deep into my heart. At our age, losses are more than just memories. They are parts of ourselves, pieces of our soul that are irreplaceable. Once something is gone, no matter how hard we try to fill that gap, it remains forever empty. Adam and Emily came by often, bringing their young children in the hopes that their laughter, their innocence, might lighten my spirit. But no matter how hard I tried, no matter how much I wanted to find solace in their joy, it all felt so far away. My heart was a fortress, locked away behind walls of sorrow, and no matter how much love they offered, it couldn't break through. I would smile, but it was nothing more than a hollow gesture to reassure them that I was okay, when deep down, I was anything but. The silence between us grew louder with each passing day, a constant reminder of the space Mrs. Robinson had left behind. One afternoon, Adam sat beside me, his face etched with concern. He couldn't understand why I was still grieving so deeply, why I hadn't been able to move on, and in his gentle way, he tried to console me. "Dad, please don't be sad anymore. Mrs. Robinson wouldn't want you to feel like this." His words, though filled with love, stung. How could he understand? He hadn't experienced the depth of loss that I had. "Adam, there are things you just can't put into words," I said, my voice trembling. "Letting go isn't something you can do easily. You and Emily are still young. You're still finding your way. But when someone you love with all your heart is suddenly gone, it feels like the sky itself has fallen. Like everything you've ever known is slipping through your fingers." Adam went quiet, sensing the weight of my words. Then, with great care, he reached for my hand, squeezing it gently. "Dad, you still have us, your children, and your grandchildren. We'll always be here for you." His words, as warm and comforting as they were, could not fill the void I felt. They couldn't chase away the deep, suffocating loneliness that had taken root inside me. "I know you care, Adam," I said softly, my voice barely above a whisper. But sometimes, the emptiness in your heart is something only you can truly understand. A few days later, as I walked through the garden, trying to lose myself in the quiet beauty of nature, I saw a new resident. He was an older man, his face etched with sorrow, his eyes heavy with the same loneliness that had plagued me when I first arrived. I felt a pang of recognition, a connection to his pain. I walked over to him slowly, gently placing my hand on his shoulder, offering him the same comfort I had longed for myself. "Are you new here?" I asked, my voice soft. "Would you like to take a walk with me?" He looked at me, and though his lips didn't part to speak, I saw the gratitude in his eyes. We walked together, side by side, in the stillness of the garden. Neither of us spoke a word, but we didn't need to. There was a silent understanding between us, a recognition of the shared weight of our years and our losses. We were both just two souls, wandering through the final chapters of our lives, finding what comfort we could in the company of one another. That night, as I lay in bed, I thought of Mrs. Robinson again. Her voice, so soft and kind, seemed to echo in my mind. Her smile, her gentle touch, those moments had become the most precious memories of my life, and now they were all I had left of her. It was hard, so hard, to imagine a life without her in it. But as I closed my eyes, I realized something. Even though she was gone, a part of her would always be with me. Her love, her care, her kindness, they had left an indelible mark on my heart, a mark that could never be erased. And for the first time in a long time, as I lay there in the quiet, the weight of my loneliness didn't feel so heavy. It wasn't gone, but it had softened, just a little. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough for now. Although Mrs. Robinson's passing plunged me into a profound sadness, the lessons she imparted to me during her life will forever remain etched in my heart. She taught me something that transcends all else, the importance of cherishing every relationship we encounter, whether it's with family, friends, or even fleeting acquaintances. These bonds, however small or grand, are what fill the empty spaces in our hearts. They are what make life meaningful, providing us with connection, understanding, and comfort when the world feels too vast or too overwhelming. Each relationship is a thread in the tapestry of our lives, woven together by shared moments, laughter, struggles, and love. I can't help but feel that without these relationships, our existence would be far emptier. They are the anchors that ground us, and in a world where everything is transient, they are one of the few constants we can rely on. The morning after her passing, I found myself standing in the garden of the nursing home, the warmth of the sun on my face, yet my heart felt a profound emptiness. I was alone with my thoughts, the gentle breeze whispering through the trees. It was in that quiet moment that I truly understood. Nothing in this life lasts forever. But the love we share with others, the genuine moments we create together, will always remain. Those moments live on in our hearts, and when the storms of life hit, they serve as a source of strength, a reminder that we have lived fully, loved deeply, and given a piece of ourselves to others. That love, despite the passing of time, endures like a beacon in the dark, guiding us when we feel lost. Spiritual strength, I've come to realize, is what carries us through the hardest times. Even when life feels like an unrelenting weight, it is this internal strength, fueled by our love for others and the deep connections we've built, that propels us forward. The great Japanese author Haruki Murakami once said, "I always thought that people age slowly. In reality, people don't just age in a moment. In the blink of an eye, a day has passed, a year has ended, and in the blink of an eye, a lifetime has gone by. Don't think you're still young. One day, you suddenly realize that your youth is no longer there. The first gray hairs appear, and your face begins to show small wrinkles. Time goes by, and people indeed age in ways we never truly comprehend until it happens to us. It sneaks up, almost unnoticed, and suddenly, you find yourself standing at a place in life where time seems to have slipped away without your permission. The realization that you no longer wish to discuss your age comes slowly, like a quiet acknowledgement that you have crossed a threshold. As you grow older, the weight of time becomes impossible to ignore. When your parents begin to age and need your care, you realize, with a shock, that you have stepped beyond the boundary of youth. The world begins to treat you differently, calling you sir or ma'am, and you feel a pang of discomfort. In those moments, you can no longer deny the truth. You are no longer young. Some may say, "What's so scary about aging?" But the truth is, as soon as those words leave your lips, you feel the weight of them. It's a comforting lie, a way to reassure yourself that it's not as bad as it seems. Yet, deep inside, you can feel the tears beginning to form, unspoken, unnoticed. The world quiets around you, not because it lacks words, but because, in that silence, everyone knows that there are no words left that could offer true comfort. The realization sets in you've lived a lifetime, but in many ways, no one understands the journey you've walked. You may have a network of acquaintances, friends, colleagues, so many people in your life, but how many truly understand you? How many truly listen to the whispers of your soul? In the end, we often find ourselves alone in our thoughts, even when surrounded by others. The comfort that people offer can often feel hollow, a polite gesture meant to fill the space. But sometimes, instead of responding with empty words, we choose to remain silent. It's not out of bitterness, but rather out of recognition that only we, ourselves, can understand our hearts. The silence, then, becomes a sacred space, where we allow ourselves to listen to the rhythm of our thoughts and feel the pulse of our hearts. When night falls and the world drifts into a quiet slumber, you find peace in the sound of your heartbeat. Alone, yes, but not lonely. There's a certain freedom in that solitude, a comfort in knowing that you no longer need the validation of others. Their worries, their opinions, are no longer a weight upon your shoulders. You've come to trust yourself, to trust your character and judgment, more than the fleeting opinions of those around you. Time slips by, unnoticed at times, and as you age, you realize that the noise of the world grows quieter. Not because there's nothing left to say, but because there's nothing more that needs to be said. People, in their way, begin to understand that silence often speaks louder than words. How many of the people around you truly understand the depth of your journey? Few, if any. And at times, you may feel as though no one is truly listening. But perhaps that is okay. The words of comfort often mask the deeper truth, the truth we are unwilling to confront. So, you choose silence. It is in that stillness that you find clarity, a deeper connection with yourself. Only then can you hear your heart, your true thoughts,